What is going on today? We are making chorizo, egg, and potatoes for breakfast. We're going to make it keto by using radishes to replace the potatoes. So if you've never tried replacing potatoes on the keto diet with radishes, you are missing out. I know it's a scary thought if you've never tried it before. I was one of those. But if you've never tried it, check out my fried potato video. And you know, the radishes, they lose the pepperiness after you cook them, and they pretty much take on whatever flavor you give it. So whatever seasonings you throw in there, that's the flavor that's gonna the radishes are gonna take on. So don't worry, they're really good. So we're going to be using that today to make our breakfast. If you are new here and you enjoy low carb or keto recipes, please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you can be updated every time a new video comes out. So let's go ahead and get on to the breakfast. Alright guys, so we're going to start off with a pound of radishes, and I'm just going to put them in the strainer here so that we can rinse them off before we start to dice them up. So you can get the ones that are on the bunches. I just like to buy the ones in the bag because you don't have to rip off the vines or anything like that. So I'm just going to take these over to the sink, rinse them out, and then we will cut them up. Alright, so as you guys can see, these ones are pretty big, so they're not all this size. Some of them are actually pretty small, so look at the comparison of these. So we're going to start off by cutting off the ends of the radishes, and then we're going to cut them into quarter pieces. You can cut them any way that you like, but I like to slice them in half and then cut them two more times, depending on how big they are, into little quarter-sized pieces like this. Obviously, the smaller they are, the faster they're going to cook, and the bigger the pieces, they're going to take a little bit longer to cook. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and finish dicing up these radishes, and then after we're done, we will move on to the next step. Alright, so here we have all of our radishes diced up into little quarter-sized pieces. Alright, and we're going to set this to medium heat. Once the pan is nice and hot, we'll go ahead and add in some oil, whatever oil that you normally cook with, whether it's olive oil, avocado oil, whatever. Okay, and so now that it's nice and hot, we're just going to go ahead and put our radishes into the pan, and we're just going to let them cook until they're tender. That's going to depend on how tender you want them, but I do like them to be pretty tender, kind of like, you know, a potato. Don't like them too crunchy, so I'm definitely going to say probably, I mean, some people only cook radishes about 5 minutes or so, but I would say mine cooked in about 15 minutes. It also will depend on your stove and how high you're cooking it. So just start at about 10 to 15 minutes and maybe check it after 10 minutes or so. And then normally we don't need to season these, but I am going to season them. Right now I am putting on some pink salt just to taste. And I would say I added about a quarter to a half of a teaspoon, and I'm going to add in about a half of a teaspoon of pepper. Alright, and I'm also going to put in 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and about another teaspoon of garlic powder. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it, so just season it however you would like to season it. Technically, you don't even need to season the radishes. So normally when you make chorizo and eggs or potatoes, you wouldn't normally need to season the potatoes because the chorizo is the flavoring of the dish. So For this though, because they're radishes, and radishes are, when they're cooked, they lose the pepperiness, so don't be scared to eat them. But the good thing about radishes is that they take on whatever flavor you give it. So if you season them very well, very generously with garlic powder, onion powder, pepper, whatever it is, paprika, anything that you want, they it's just gonna help with the flavor on the radishes. So I personally just like to season the radishes directly. So while those are cooking, let's go ahead and beat our eggs. For this recipe, I'm going to use 10 eggs. And I am making breakfast right now for my whole family, so it's really going to depend on how many people you have to cook for. Alright, and I'm just going to go ahead and start cracking the eggs, and I'm just going to add them in this little measuring cup here. Don't do that. I dropped a piece of a shell in there, so you definitely don't want that in there. Alright, and since we can't use regular milk, we're going to go ahead and put in about 1 tablespoon of heavy cream to your eggs. This is optional, but if you normally put milk in your eggs, then you can add in the heavy cream, and then we'll just go ahead and start beating our eggs. Alright, so now we are going to add in the chorizo that we have. And this is just 1 pack of chorizo. The one I have is about 8 ounces, I believe. And we'll just add that in. Pretty much what we're gonna do now is just chop up this chorizo and just kind of cook it down a little bit and move on from there. Okay, and as you can see, the chorizo is starting to cook down really well. So now we can go ahead and mix the chorizo in with our radishes. That way, you know, coat them all with the chorizo and give them that nice flavor. And then we can also get ready to pour in our eggs. But go ahead and mix that in really well first. Okay, and then just make sure that, you know, the chorizo and the radishes are well combined, just the same as if you would do it with potatoes. Okay, so now we can just take our beaten eggs, and all we have to do is just pour it into the chorizo and the radish mix. So pour that into the pan. Just give it a little mix just to kind of toss it around and make sure it's all pretty well combined. And then the only other thing to do is you're pretty much just going to let it cook. Alright, so they look like they are pretty much done. This is how you want your eggs to look, you know, nice and fluffy, and you know, they're ready to go. So you can either eat them like this, or if you want to eat it in a low carb tortilla, you can do that. And we're going to be using these today. These are actually my favorite brand, and these are about 4 net carbs. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and add some chorizo in here. You normally like to add your burritos, if you want to put a little bacon in there, if you want to put cheese in there, whatever it is that you like in your chorizo and egg burrito, go ahead and load it just like that. For me, I just like to add a little cheese in there, and that's good for me. Okay, and then we're just going to fold the burrito up and give it a roll, and then it'll be ready to eat. And there you have it. Oh, I guess it tore a little bit there, but okay, we can fix that. So I normally don't do this, but I decided to just go ahead and give this a try since that burrito kind of tore. And I'm basically just going to fry it in some butter, kind of like you would a chimichanga, just to make it a little crispy. I ended up really liking how this came out. So that's just another thing that you can do to make your burrito a little bit more sturdy. And that is it. So we will just cook it in that butter, and then let me just show you on the other side. As you can see, it's nice and toasted, and we're going to do that to both sides, and then you can actually have a little crispy burrito, breakfast burrito. Okay, and then, you know, it makes it a little bit stronger. And here you go. That is what your burrito will look like on the inside. And hey, now you have a nice chorizo and egg burrito. Of course, you can always have chorizo and eggs without the potatoes, but if you're one that wants the potatoes in there every once in a while, you know, radishes are a great potato replacement. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I will see you on the next video.